Sorry, so I'm jumping on the screen. You guys can come in. Fine.
Oh my God, Fred. Oops.
Oh, hey, Alan's here.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
You just can't see me.
Yeah, what the heck? Where's your handsome face?
I'm trying to, it says,
Get some rest because this is so crazy.
yeah, right. You can't track anybody down if you don't know the picture of them.
There you
Royce,
go.
you have, Royce, you, says you're running my screen.
Got to give him access to share.
Or at least it seemed.
Oh, Becky. Yay. Hi, Becky. She's always nice. So pretty.
I'm going to leave and come back. How's that?
Okay. And then I say we get started.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hopefully Dave's not having technical difficulties.
Well, I put up the agenda while we're waiting, just so we got something to look at.
Thanks, Royce.
But yeah, we're not in the same place, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, is Carolyn coming, do you know, on this meeting?
I don't know.
Carolyn doesn't have a microphone, but she's in attendance, yes.
So who was just speaking? Was that Lori?
Sorry, this is Kim from the Office of Elections.
Hi, Kim. So who's going to manage this agenda? Is that me?
Oh.
Is that David?
Sorry, 1 second. Hi, sorry, this is Kim. I believe that I thought you were going to kind of run it until the chairs decided, but we don't have quorum, so no decision making can happen. So there's, I believe, I mean, Lori can correct me if I'm wrong, but we cannot, no chair can be selected. But I just got off the phone with Lori. Comments can be taken, I believe.
Hi, yes, this is Lori. Just confirming, based on who I see, I can only see member Wilbur and member Takemoto. I believe we're still missing member Finnegan and member Rompo. Can you please confirm, Kim?
Yeah, can we, I mean, let's call the meeting to order. Dave's having technical difficulties, but we can call the meeting to order, right? And then do a roll call for the advisory committee. Because I only see Alan Takamoto here. I don't see anybody else from the advisory committee.
I think Jen Wilbur is also on, Robin.
Jennifer Lahan, so Wilbur is her last name?
Jen Wilbur, I saw her earlier.
Yeah, so that's, I
So
don't
that's
have
still
that
only
last
two,
name.
though.
for her.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Lynn's here and Alan's here.
Oh, is Lynn? No, I didn't see Lynn.
Oh, sorry. Did you say Jennifer's here?
Jen. Yeah.
So her last name is Wilbur. Okay. So
Jen
Lynn.
Wilbur, yes, I see, but I do not see the other two.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to jump in. Could member Takemoto put on his camera, please?
Sure. Hold on. Okay. Can you see me?
Robin.
Hi. Yay. Hey, Alan.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet everyone.
You too. Okay. So, I'm sorry, Lori, are you saying go ahead? So is Dave back or no?
I'm here. You just can't see me.
Oh, I cannot see you. Okay, so basically we just called the meeting to order. So there is not a quorum. And we cannot elect a chair without a quorum, apparently. So we're on to number 4. This is going swimmingly. I like to run efficient meetings. Okay,
Okay.
redistricting website demonstration by the reapportionment staff. So was that to be on behalf of all of the people attending, or was that supposed to be for the advisory committee, or are we going to do that without?
That's for everyone.
Okay, so Dave,
And it's
is
just a
that
brief
Royce or Dave?
introduction. I don't know if David wanted to say anything. I've just got a few slides to share to kind of really more, here's what the redistricting online application and here's how to learn more about it. But David, did you want to say anything before I start the slides?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, hang on. All right. So I've got a few slides here for the online application, the Hawaii Redistricting Online. And then there are some other mapping resources, and I'll talk about those too. Hawaii Redistricting Online, if you haven't gone there, here's what the opening screen looks like. The URL is on the reapportionment website. I've also put it down in the corner of this slide and other slides. It does require a login, so the first time you go, you would need to create that login, but then you can create plans. And in fact, this is the exact Hawaii Redistricting Online was used by the technical group to create the proposed plans that were adopted by the commission on October 28th. And this is the same set of data and tools available to the public to create plans. And indeed, they have been. Several plans have been submitted. All those proposed plans that were adopted by the commission are available. If you log in Hawaii Redistricting Online, they're there as templates. If you want to try and make them better, you can open up the proposed plan and start from there and try and improve on it further. You can also use it just to look at various data sets, the census blocks and so forth. So this is on the reapportionment website. There is a link to the application itself. There is a video tutorial that will step you through. We're not going to watch it right now, but if you're interested, I think it's about 25 minutes, and it'll kind of show you how you step through the process of creating a plan. But then after you've watched the tutorial, I show you a whole lot of things in that tutorial. And I found it handy that afterwards people are going, well, wait, how did you do this? So I made these click lists with specific information, because of Hawaii Redistricting Online, it's organized by different tabs. And so I put a click list, a specific, here's how I do mouse clicks to do specific things. So if you are interested in learning more about it, watch the video and then use these click lists. One important one is the template plans, because this is the starting point. As soon as you open Hawaii Redistricting Online, you'll be asked to choose a template plan. So these are plans to start creating your own if you want. And there are blank plans where no, okay, so I should say, what is a plan? A plan is assigning census blocks to legislative districts. So there are plans that are totally blank. Every census block hasn't been assigned anywhere. We find those aren't used much, but they are available if you want to start totally from scratch. Then there's a set of templates for the current districts, which means the districts we've had the last 10 years, but with the current 2020 populations. And so those are the deviations. I'll be showing those in the second presentation, the deviations of the current districts. And then the third option for templates are the proposed districts. So as a technical group, they started with the current and then started adjusting census blocks and assigning them to other districts to come up with their proposed plans, which were adopted by the full commission. So template plans are your starting point. You can go in and look at them. And if you want, do a save as and save it as your own and start changing it. And if you have something you like, you can submit it. So there's a whole set of tools. And again, the video shows you these in detail. I just want to talk briefly about them. The whole idea is to take census blocks. So you see a couple of them here on the screen. The black outline, each one is a census block. So I see a large one that's got 248 people that's currently assigned to House 47. Another one, smaller one's got 5. Right, there's one below that's got 15. As you move on the map, you'll see each census block and its population. And those are what you need to assign to other districts. And that's where there's a whole set of tools. I show them in the video where you can click on a block and it'll change its assignment. So that's the primary work you do is this view and create tabs in the online application to assign census blocks to various districts. And as you do that, each time you change, you'll see there's what's called a district window. As you assign a census block, that population will then get assigned to that district. And you'll see it'll automatically update and show you then the deviation from ideal. I'll talk about what that means in a moment. and the deviation percent. So there's a lot of tools in here. Go over them in the video and the click list. And these are, as I mentioned before, the same tools used by the technical group to come up with their plans. There is something that there's a little button up on the side I want to point out. It's called the map contents. It's a small little triangle, but when you click that, it opens up some other layers that we've added in that sometimes are handy as a reference. So maybe you want to see the current House districts, the 2020, or maybe you want to see Oahu Pua'as, refer to them, or elementary school areas, neighborhood boards. We've recently added Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander populations, at least for Oahu we have. And I am focusing this presentation on Oahu since this is the Oahu Advisory Council. So those map contents can be useful if you want to refer to other layers as you're looking at the maps. And of course, once you've been working through a plan, there are a variety of integrity checks that you can run, including the deviation, because ideally each district has the same population. In the real world, they never are exactly the same, but they can deviate by a certain amount, and it will check all of that for you. Under the review tab, again, the click list goes over it, and I show it to you in the video. You have a plan you really like, you can click the submit button, and you can submit that then to the commission, and it becomes part of the commission record, and the technical group will be reviewing that and others. So that's just kind of a quick overview. There is a Learn tab that has all of this information that I just shared with you, the click list, the video, and then Esri is the company who's actually made this application, and they have a whole bunch of online help that gets into even more detail because there's a lot of other tools in the software that we don't use that much, but you might find them interesting. If you do want to go to the Learn tab, and all the Esri help is available on that Learn tab. So as I mentioned, you do have to have a login to use the Hawaii Redistricting Online, but we have published other plans that do not require a login. Some people aren't comfortable. They don't really want to change a plan anyway. They just want to see the current plans that are being proposed. So again, on the Reapportionment Commission website, if you click Legislative Redistricting Plans, there are the current maps, in other words, the current districts with 2020 populations in a PDF format, one district at a time. So each page is a district. If you're interested to see the details, exactly which streets are being followed, which streams are being followed, which features, right, the boundaries, these PDFs, each district is one page in that PDF. So you can go look at it. It is a PDF though, so it is static, and that's where at the bottom we do have some interactive maps. And again, no login is required. The link is on the page, on the reapportionment page. The Oahu Senate and House are available, both the current and proposed, as a map that you can zoom in, you can switch the tabs, you can zoom down and see census blocks, streets. There's a lot of different options there. And there is, I should point out, a little magnifying glass on the screen. That's the search. So if you want to put in your address and see exactly where the districts are relative to your address, you can use that little magnifying glass, type in your address, and it'll zoom right to where you are and show you the districts. So with that, there's the interactive maps, and of course, the Hawaii Redistricting Online, where all of the proposed maps are available. In the next presentation, I will actually give you more details on those proposed maps. But before I go to that, let me stop here and see if there's any questions. Questions from advisory councils?
Yeah, I have a question for Bill Hicks. I want to know if it's as easy as it looks, Bill. Can you give any advice to anybody that actually wants to maybe?
It's not easy, and I think Bill will confirm that. But
right.
Yeah, he must have done a lot of work. So yeah, Robin mentioned Bill Hicks. He has submitted some plans and shared some plans.
It's not that hard.
Technical group is looking at. It's a great set of tools, but yeah, it takes some work. And Bill, you've done some great work.
It took me about 8 hours for the first one, about 5 hours for the second. Yeah. And it gets easier with practice.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I'm gonna jump on to the next presentation. And that is the actual proposed legislative plans. Again, we're just focused on Oahu since this is the Oahu Advisory Council. Although I thought I would include congressional here since the primary changes, in fact, the only changes on the congressional boundary are here on Oahu. So this is kind of the step-by-step process that we've been going through, the commission's been going through. We had to get the census data, that was the starting point. Federal population base used for Congress, Hawaii permanent resident used for state Senate, state House. Seats were apportioned. We, the staff, then took all this census data and district boundaries and created the template plans for the current districts that the technical group started working with. They worked through those, came up with their plans, which were proposed and have been adopted by the commission on October 28th. And the clock is ticking now for the public hearings, which I'll show the schedule later. They'll start later in November because there is a waiting period to give the public time to view all these different maps. So I just showed you the maps themselves are available, a number of different forms online. There also will be available at public libraries and a few other places, printed maps. If you don't have online access, you want to go see printed maps, they will be available also. Once public hearings finish, the technical group will go back again, come up with some final maps, and then to the commission, they get adopted, those maps are published, and in the end, they do become the basis for the 2022 elections. So
Do we have dates on that, Royce? Do we know when the final plans will be submitted, when that final meeting will be for the commission to vote, or is it based on the approval of the community
Well, there's a
meeting?
lot of things between now and then, but I think I saw early January.
Yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere, and someone asked me recently. Okay.
So yeah, I mean, the schedule, we keep adjusting as things
Yeah.
come up, but you know, there's a court imposed deadline that is a little bit later in January, but there's a lot of things that need to happen after the commission decides. There's this whole re-precincting process because we do have to then get also the information from the city and county of Honolulu. They have redrawn their council districts. Hawaii County is still working on redrawing their council districts. So we need to take all of those and combine them with the commission's districts to come up with new precincts and new ballot. I mean, okay, there's a lot of work after the commission finishes theirs in order to be ready for candidate filing March 1st, and then of course primary in August. So yeah, we're trying to push things just as quickly as we can, but we need to give time for the public to evaluate everything. And then for the technical group and commission to consider all that and come up with a final plan. So as I mentioned, census blocks, that is the basis for all the redistricting work we do. I showed you briefly a few screenshots from Hawaii Redistricting Online. Everything we do is at that lowest level of geography, the census blocks. Here was for the Congressional Plan. I just wanted to define some different terms because we've been using a lot of different words. So a Congressional Plan is nice because there's only 2 districts. And so it's kind of easy to define these terms. I've shown some screen captures from Hawaii Redistricting Online. We can see the current boundaries. That's what's on the lower left. CD1 is basically kind of south and central Oahu. CD2 is all the rest of the state, the rest of Oahu, all the other islands, the Northwest Flying Islands. So really the boundary that we're looking at is a boundary on Oahu as we're looking for changes to make to balance these districts. So what do we mean by balance them? Well, we saw the federal population, this is the census population that we received, 2020, is 1,455,271. If you divide that by 2, which would be an exactly equal population in each district, CD1 and CD2, that's the target, 727,636. Again, we see as the starting point, the districts, Congressional 1 has 729 now with 2020 population, which is 2,000 over, and Congressional 2 is under that. So that's these terms that we've been throwing around. It's based on population growth, right? So here I just put up as reference 2010 population, and the 2010 target, right? So there was the federal population divided by 2 gave the target for each congressional district in 2010. And now in 2020, you can see the population has grown by almost 7%, right? And this is statewide, right? Because we're looking at congressional districts, which meant our ideal target population, the ideal average, has gone up by almost 7%, up to 727,636. So that's where then, if we take the 2020 population, we see that CD1 grew by slightly more than that average, and CD2 grew by slightly less than that average. If we look at the actual number of people above and below, we see that CD1 has about 2,000 more than that ideal population, which then, of course, since we only have 2, CD2 is about 2,000 below. We usually look at this as percentages. So there's those same numbers, but as a percentage. So you can see CD1 is 0.3% above, CD2 0.3% below, which gives us the number you hear referred to a lot, the overall deviation, which is the difference between the highest and the lowest. So in this case, the overall deviation with the current districts without changing any boundaries is 0.6%. So this is where then the technical group went in to see if they could improve on that. They used Hawaii Redistricting Online. That congressional plan was adopted by the commission on the 14th. And here is what was adopted. You can see on the left, the current plan with a deviation of 0.6%. The technical group took a series of blocks in the Ko'olina Barbers Point area and basically assigned them. They had been in CD1, you can see on the left, they assigned them to CD2. So the population of each of those blocks got assigned to CD2, which then resulted in an overall deviation of 0.34%. So I bring up here, this is the details. If you want to see, these are exactly the blocks that were changed. And the numbers inside are the actual census populations. You can notice a number of them are 0. Every piece of land is identified with a census block number. In some areas, particularly industrial, business, agricultural areas, there often are 0 population. That's not unusual to see that, particularly in an industrial area like Barbers Point, Campbell Industrial Park. But when the technical group is drawing boundaries, and if you're drawing boundaries, you got to include those, right? Because it needs to be, a district needs to be contiguous. And sometimes you have to move through a whole series of 0 census blocks to get down to 14 down there and 1. And you want to try to follow major boundaries. So you can see here where the technical group followed Kalailo Boulevard and then turned, and there was a water drainage ditch that runs down the length there. And they followed that ditch all the way down. So a very well-defined boundary. And that's how they got those deviations down from 0.6 to 0.34. So that is the congressional plan. I've got similar information, although not quite as detailed, for both the Oahu Senate and House. But before I move from that, any questions on the congressional? Okay, hearing none. So now we go look at the Senate, and we don't just have 2 districts. Now we have 17 districts, but the process is pretty much the same. We look then at the population, right, the 2020 population. We can see the growth. Indeed, the Senate districts grew, but at very different rates. That's where we can see overall. Now we are talking just the Oahu Basic Island Unit, not statewide. So just for Oahu, 11.73% population increase from 2010 to 2020, which means then the ideal target population for each Senate district has also grown by that much. But as you scan down, you can see some of the other Senate districts have grown by much more than that target. In fact, you can see Senate 12, 22.97% population increase. It's got 64,000 people now, way above. In fact, 8,541 above that ideal target of 55,642. And you can see further down, Senate 19, Senate 20, also very high population growth in those 10 years and quite a bit above that ideal population. You can scan the table, you can see there's others that are also quite a bit below. Senate 23 jumps out, 8,500 below. In fact, if we look here at the highest and the lowest, we see that indeed Senate 12 is the highest deviation above that ideal, 15.35, and Senate 23 is the lowest at minus 15.37, which gives us then our total for the basic island unit of the difference between those two, 30.72%. That was the challenge the technical group was facing, and indeed anyone else coming up with a plan. Under the current boundaries, the Senate has a deviation of 30.72%. That's way more than the court upheld 10% within a basic island unit. So the technical group worked with it, got it down to 7.93%. And that's what I'm going to share with you here. They used wire redistricting online. They assigned census blocks. But in this case, it wasn't a matter of like swapping between two districts because there's 17 districts. And so moving things from one district to another has kind of a ripple effect. And each change you make in one district affects the neighboring ones, which then affects the neighboring ones. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's not just like one time you go through and do it, you change it, you go back, you change it a little more. There's a lot of back and forth that they went through. But they did use those tools with Hawaii Redistricting Online and brought that down from 30.72 to 7.93. These are the proposed boundaries. You can see on the left are the current ones, and they're colored in by the deviation. So the bright red were way higher above the deviation, and the ones in blue were quite a bit lower. So you can see that again, those areas, not surprisingly, I guess, where there's been a lot of development on Oahu in the last 10 years, the area around Kaka'ako, Ala Moana, and of course out on the west side. A lot of growth out there. Growth in other parts of the island too, but just not nearly as fast, right? So a cool color blue doesn't mean they didn't grow. They grew, but just not as fast as these other ones. So when we look at the deviation, who's above and below average, that's what the proposed plan then balances out. And you can see the boundaries there. I'll show you the areas that actually changed. And again, we can't go into detail. We don't want to spend that much time here. But if we zoomed in, just like I showed you out for the congressional, there's a number of census blocks in here that got assigned, reassigned. So the actual total number, there's 769, affecting 94,842 persons that had their Senate designation changed in the commission's proposed plan. I think that, oh, so there's a zoom in just so you can see a little more detail. Those kind of shaded, kind of pinkish color, those are the areas that were changed. So I'll just stop here briefly before we jump on to the House, see if there's any questions on that. Okay, hearing none. Again, these proposed maps are online. If you want to go in and look at them, try to improve them yourself. They are there and they are available also, as I mentioned before, as PDFs and interactive maps. So you want to go in and look at these things in more detail, see the census blocks. You can go in and do that using these online resources. All right, now we get to the House. 56.17%, that was the current deviation. Technical group brought that down to 8.54%, just under the 10% court upheld deviations within a basic island unit. I'm not going to go through all the numbers. I'll just highlight a few of them. We can see the overall 56.17 came from the difference between House 41, which is the highest above that ideal population, 39.6% above Again, this is the current districts with the 2020 population, and House 45, which is actually 16.57% below that ideal target, almost 4,477 people below the ideal. So again, this was the challenge, bring that down below 10%. They brought it down to 8.54%. Similarly, you can see the boundaries on the left, the current colored by their deviation. And again, you see the bright red is where there's been a lot of growth, not as much growth in the blue and green areas. I'll go to the next slide that shows here's where the changes were actually made. 1,456 census blocks were assigned to a different House district, affecting 184,599 persons. And here's the detail on where those changes happened. And this is where, again, you can go into any of the online maps, put in your address. At the interactive map, you could put in your address and go see exactly, if you're in one of these areas that was affected, you can see what are my new districts, what are the districts around me, and so forth. Questions on the House? Seeing none, again, they're available online. And these are the steps. Public hearings will start. This is again pending confirmation. These did change from what was presented at talked about at last week's commission meeting, because we do need to get the right times when people can come to these. And so this is the current. They will be posted on the reapportionment website when final, but these are the current public hearing dates that are being considered. I highlighted the ones for Oahu. There'll be 4, as you can see. The first one, December 4th, out East Oahu. And so in each of these, we'll focus on the changes in those areas, right? So that's why 4 different ones will focus on changes in those 4 different areas. December 8th, Central, December 9th, Leeward, and December 10th, Windward. And with that, I presented the Senate and the House, giving you a quick overview and pointing you to where you can find out more details if you're interested. But any other questions? Okay, that's all I have. Anything, David, you want to add? Or let's see, do we have any of the technical group on the call here? Anything they want to add?
Diane is here.
Okay, Diane.
Oh, I have nothing to add.
Then I guess Robin or David, anything?
I know you want to bring that agenda
Yes.
back up too, when you have a chance.
Sure, I can do that.
To talk about just the scheduling, we did revise the scheduled dates. It looks like the technical group could probably meet on the 12th, maybe the 12th of December, start their work on revising the 3 plans if there's going to be revisions. The 3 plans can be presented to the commission right after Christmas. With adoption around the 13th or 14th of January. And then 14 days after that, the chief election officer has to publish the plan. And then we have to submit the final report to the state legislature by 2/27. But we're still firming those up, but that'll give you an idea of where we are now and where we're going to be very soon.
Did you say 2/27, David? I'm sorry, 2/27 to the legislature.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the court date that we must make.
Okay, so number 5 was review and discussion of the proposed. So Diane didn't have anything to share. And then now we move on to public testimony. Is that correct? Lori?
Right to me.
Yes, I'm not sure if Kim can let us know who signed up to testify.
Yeah, and
Oh,
typically Scott creates an order where he calls them out. Yeah.
Okay, for the future meetings though, it would be the chair. Public testimony would be sent to the advisory council, and the chair would be the one to direct public testimony. But since there is no chair, I do have a list, I guess, of the people that did submit. I guess if that's the case, then the first person that I have would be Bill Hicks. Is there an issue though if I'm calling this? Lori, do we know?
No, there's no issue.
Okay. In that case, first person would be Bill Hicks.
Aloha. My name is Bill Hicks. I'm chairman of the Kailua Neighborhood Board, but I'm speaking only as an individual because our board has still not had an opportunity to consider this issue. Mahalo for letting me provide comment on the reapportionment proposals. I don't think it's a good idea to mix East Oahu and Windward Oahu residents into the same district, House or Senate. I believe that Makapu'u Point should be a natural boundary, the same as Kaina Point. That is how the districts have historically been drawn and the way the city council districts still are. The technical group's proposed lines for House District 51 would dilute the voices of Kailua, especially Enchanted Lake, of Hawaii Kai, especially Portlock, and of the ethnic Hawaiian population, since there are more Hawaiians in Enchanted Lake than there are in Portlock. Such a strange and convoluted district, District 51, would be significantly harder for someone elected from Kailua or Waimanalo to represent, and especially so for someone elected from Hawaii Kai. Waimanalo people know Kailua, and Kailua people, especially those in Enchanted Lake, know Waimanalo. We moved to Kailua in 1986. I can only remember being in Portlock one time, and that was about 20 years ago. On the other hand, the Waimanalo Jack in the Box is about as close to me as the Kailua one. The commission encouraged residents to use the online interactive maps to make and submit plans for your consideration. So I did that to prove to myself that it is viable to not mix East Oahu and Windward Oahu. I am convinced a reasonable alternative plan can use Makapu'u Point as a boundary. Furthermore, I found that such an approach could also keep all of the East Oahu valleys, such as Manoa Valley, intact in single districts. Furthermore, I found using mountains, streams, and highways as boundaries where possible to keep neighborhoods intact as much as possible, to construct compact and contiguous districts, could even reduce the population deviation from about 8% that the technical group achieved all the way down to about 2%. I then did the same thing for the Oahu Senate districts with the same outcomes. Makapu'u Point is a viable boundary. East Oahu valleys are kept intact. 16 of the 17 districts have deviations less than 1%, and the one outside of that is only 1.07%. So if a couple of groupings should be more optimized for keeping neighborhoods intact, where political considerations, and there were none in what I did, then there's room to do that. Yesterday, I did the same thing with the Mililani excursion, because I've heard from Mililani people that they don't like being carved up into too many districts. And it's possible to put all of Mililani Town into a single district. Guess what? The population of Mililani Town is 27,175. the target district population is 27,026. It's a natural. And you can also put all of Mililani, Mauka, and Waipio acres into another district. So I'm sure what I constructed could be vastly improved upon by more knowledgeable people by moving census blocks around for the better neighborhood integrity. Again, there was zero political calculus in what I constructed. My main point is keeping Windward Oahu separate from East Oahu is extremely viable. And with a deviation of only 2 to 3%, as I mentioned, you've got maneuvering space to make appropriate adjustments at the margins if needed. I hope you're able to take a good look at my alternative plans and choose to develop and consider them further. Mahalo.
Thank you, Bill. Who's next, Kimberly?
Did anyone have any questions? If not, next is Mr. Bart Dean.
Bart. Hi, Bart.
Aloha, members. It seems like it's been a couple days. Let me see if I get my video working here.
There you are.
Yeah, my still photo looks better than the real me in COVID. I want to thank you for holding this hearing. I admit I'm concerned about the absence of the 2 Republican members, and I'm wondering what's behind that. Are they aware that they are setting back the work of this group for, I don't know, how quickly can you have the next meeting? You have to put notice out. Is that 6 days?
7 days, yeah, 6 days.
7 days.
I mean,
Okay,
they
so
were
it's
all
already
well.
a tight, yeah, it's already a tight time frame to begin this work. And I think it's really important to mobilize Oahu residents to get their feedback because it's a very complicated process. We have 35 House districts and 17 Senates. But I also think that the proposed map, particularly the proposed map on for the House districts, is so dramatically different from the past with the decision to have the so-called wraparound district of House District 51 from Lanikai through Waimanalo and into Portlock, and the way that ripples both north on the windward side, but also through East Honolulu and disrupts existing communities, means there's a lot of work that has to be done. So we need a lot of feedback from a lot of people. I wonder if this council can work with the Neighborhood Boards Commission and send out notices to using them to all their board members so that they can be directed to the maps and to the software and learn how to give effective testimony and feedback. I want to compliment Royce on the software that's available. It is very powerful. It looks like Windows 95, but it has lots of features in it. And I certainly haven't tapped into them. I'm very impressed that Bill Hicks was able to draw his maps as quickly as he did. Those of you who have heard me know I'm very opposed to the wraparound House District 51. I think it's actually illegal. It is not compact by any means. The definition of contiguous has been tortured so that it's essentially a single point connection around Makapu'u Point. And it was totally unnecessary. The term as practicable, that phrase gets kind of stretched to also mean whatever they want. As practical means that you can't have other alternatives that better conform to the criteria than this one. And frankly, it disrupts the hell out of things. And I think it's a lawsuit waiting to happen. But in any event, it's angered and frustrated and caused concern to an awful lot of Oahu residents, certainly from Kailua, Waimanalo into Kahala, Kaimaki, Palolo, Manoa. And I wish Bill Hicks a lot of luck. I appreciate that he went up to Mililani to see the streets. I have been very hesitant to try to say how the line should be drawn in parts of the island that I don't know. And so that has prevented me from coming up with maps. Plus I'm lazy. But what we really need to do is we need to harness the neighborhood boards, the people who are active in the community so they can give feedback and they can improve on both proposals. I mean, Will Carone has a proposal, but Will admits that it's defective. I'll let him speak for it, but I think it gets down to the Bill Hicks map versus the technical committee's map. And so I think residents should look at the two of them and provide feedback. And while the time is tight, I think hopefully we have enough time to make adjustments. And so that people who are unhappy in other parts of the island can share both with Bill their ideas and with the technical committee. I am concerned that what I've heard with my spider sense from the technical committee people is they're willing to make changes, but basically only minor tweaks, because of the way that changes ripple through neighboring districts. If it's a substantial change, like if they were to reject the Makapu'u wraparound, they don't want to do that because that's the basis for starting the maps, and that would cause them to have to remap the entire island. So those of you who want to try to preserve, protect a small community, maybe you can get your changes through. But for those of us who are upset at the basic approach they're taking, we're going to have to organize some what's the word, the good trouble, in order to put pressure on them. And I hope that the Oahu Council can listen to Oahu residents and help become a vehicle for that kind of, for our feedback and for our frustrations. Thank you very much. I'm available for questions.
If there are no more questions, then the next testifier is Dunning Guy Carlos Sanchez.
Do I have to, I think, okay, perfect. I think I've unmuted myself. Hello, thank you so much for getting my name right. That's amazing. Most people struggle, but this is me, and thank you for hearing me. I would really just like to enthusiastically support Bill Hicks's map and Bart's testimony, just because I've watched them work and know that they do far better work than I ever could. And I don't live in Oahu anymore, but I know residents of all of the areas around the Makapu'u Point and have heard similar concerns, and really do hope that the Oahu elected officials that have any sort of power over this decision can really reconsider and make sure that it happens fairly and equitably and along some sort of historical traditional lines, such as geographical features that are logical boundaries like Makapu'u Point, and streams that preserve the traditional ahupua'a and have more of a sense of community for people. The next election season is critical, as they all are, but seriously critical now to keep some of our seats in the hands of people that can make real good changes and not fall into the hands of other people that might not have such great intentions. And we really throw the next election into concern, not the way to say it, but we really run the risk of losing a lot of confidence if we mess this up according to local people's perceptions. So I really would urge everyone concerned to consider Bill Hicks' map and go with something very similar to that and abandon the wraparound at Makapu'u Point. Thank you so much for hearing me. Hope that was good, and I will follow with interest what happens from now on. Aloha and mahalo.
Any questions? Okay. We will be moving on to Matt Prellberg.
Aloha, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Can everyone hear me? All right, cool. Thank you. I'll keep this short. I just want to thank everyone for coming out today and the opportunity to provide this moment for public testimony. My name is Matt Prellberg. I am the chair of the Makali Mo'ili'ili Neighborhood Board. I am speaking today in my individual capacity, as our board has not yet had the opportunity to take a position on the maps. We will be voting on a resolution this Thursday at our upcoming meeting. So depending on when the next meeting is, maybe next time I will be able to speak in my official capacity. Many of you have heard me speak before, so I won't belabor the point too much. I am opposed to the current Oahu House map as it is drawn and proposed, in particular to District 24. This district is the district that encompasses Makali Mo'ili'ili and also a small portion of Diamond Head at the end of it. Excuse me, District 21. My concern is that this connection is only through the Alawai Golf Course, which is not a residential area. By connecting these two neighborhoods, it seems to go against the spirit of the law that all districts be contiguous with residential neighbors. I understand that Mo'ili'ili and Diamond Head neither are likely large enough to merit an entire district to themselves, but making them the two that connect rather than connecting either of us with Kapahulu or with Waikiki, with the valleys above us, there are just a lot more logical neighborhoods that we can be combined with when especially Diamond Head isn't physically contiguous to Makali Mo'ili'ili. Additionally, what I have not mentioned before that I'd like to bring to the group's attention is that there is also a section of Mo'ili'ili that is being pulled into the Waikiki district, specifically the area right along the Alawai Park near Iolani School and along the canal. Again, it doesn't really make much sense for that little sliver of our community to be wrapped in with Waikiki instead of being with us, who is the community, is the neighborhood. Where the edge, I mean, right now, Mo'ili'ili, Old Stadium Park is in the same district as the Honolulu Zoo. And the Honolulu Zoo is not in the Waikiki district. That doesn't make sense the way that the map is drawn. So bringing in some of those folks alongside the zoo and the park into Waikiki, and especially bringing those folks along the Alawai Canal back into the Makali Mo'ili'ili neighborhood and representative district would be appreciated. Thank you, and I am available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Anybody have questions? Okay, if not, we can move on to Becky Gardner.
Aloha, hold on, let me get my camera, start video. Okay, hi everybody, aloha. My name is Becky Gardner. I am, let me switch this so I'm not looking off into space. It'll let me, no, it's not letting me. Okay, anyways, I'm looking over here, but I see you. My name is Becky Gardner. I'm owner and principal of Policy Matters LLC. And I've been showing up to these commission meetings sort of regularly because I have an experience and interest in reapportionment. I was a staffer for a Big Island rep during the 2011 reapportionment, and I did a lot of legislative history research and a lot of thinking about what was happening back then. And I'm sure you all are aware that the 2011 plan, once it was first adopted by the 2011 commission, it was later challenged and invalidated by the Hawaii Supreme Court. And this was like wholesale unbanked. They rejected it outright because they didn't go through the correct process. And so that decision, the Solomon decision, I think is extremely instructive right now. And I think it's really important. I guess if there's like one word to encapsulate my concern about what's happening now is the integrity. I don't want my testimony to be somehow inferred to supporting or not supporting the extraction of the military. What I think is most important is that our representatives underwent a process to decide to extract military. What happened in 2011 was that there was this idea that we didn't have to extract them, or perhaps it was unconstitutional under the federal Constitution, but the Supreme Court did explain in Solomon v. Abercrombie that there needed to be a proper extraction. And I just want to read the whole decision really focused on this idea that there's a two-step process based on the Hawaii State Constitution. Article 4 is all about reapportionment. Article 4, Section 4 is about the reapportionment among the basic island units. So that the star of that idea is that we are going to allocate legislators among the units. We're not worried so much about census data and line drawing. We're worried about apportioning. That's like the same principle behind the apportionment of House reps federally. So we don't have other states that call it reapportionment in this way. You know, other states call it redistricting because they don't have deep ocean between islands. So that's Article 4, Section 4. Section 5 of Article 4 is about basic minimum representation for basic island units. So our framers wanted to ensure that our basic island units had minimum representation. That was a prominent concern of theirs. Next after that is Section 6, which is about the districting. And this is, you know, pretty much what most people are paying attention to right now is like, is this neighborhood compact, contiguous, and all the rest of it. But none of that step 2 process, and the Solomon decision makes clear that that's a step 2 process, and that depends on what happens at step 1. And so Solomon just really harps on this idea of step 1, step 2, step 1, step 2. And this one quote from Solomon I think is really important. That 2011 commission undertook its reapportionment task by focusing solely on the identification of non-permanent residents for step 2 and using the results for step 2 to identify the non-permanent resident population for step 1. And what it explained in that decision is, you know, there's sort of like a historical practice by the reapportionment staff and commission to use census data to, of course, do the districting, but then built that number up from the census data level to create the total population. And that was sort of where they got that extraction number. What Solomon teaches us is that we have to take off the top. We have to extract the total population off the top. And from what I've been seeing in these reapportionment meetings is that we don't have really clear data on what that extraction number is. In fact, there's some information that came out at the last meeting. I believe Bart shared it, and now it's on social media, that those numbers like don't measure up. And you guys have some tools. Well, I'm sorry, not you guys, but the Reapportionment Commission has tools. HRS sections 3, 4, and 6 to subpoena testimony, documents, ask questions, even penalize people for providing falsified information. So there's a lot of things that the commission can do to feel really good about that extraction number. And I haven't seen any efforts by the commission to do that. I'm just concerned that if, you know, Solomon told us that it needs to be done in a certain way, and I don't see that happening right now. And if this flies, then we're going to have problems in reapportionment after reapportionment after reapportionment. And if we don't get this system really clear, and this is our Constitution, right? This is like baseline, foundational. We can't be ignoring what the Constitution, we can change it. There's ways to change it. And, you know, I'd be happy to work on that if people want to change the process, but we got to stick with what we've got. So I think that having done an improper extraction, which from my standpoint, it looks like very well may have happened, it's going to corrupt all the district lines. So all this work that's happening right now to discuss like the submergence of districts and like, you know, strange shapes and all the rest of it, I mean, it may just be like out the window because the extraction didn't happen properly. So I would ask that the advisory council really explore this and hold the commission's feet to the fire to ask them to like really get solid data so I can feel good about it as a taxpayer, because I don't. And I don't think that what they've done works with the Solomon decision. A couple other things I just want to mention. The Constitution also requires, or rather HRS requires, that the commission meaningfully consult with the advisory councils. And, you know, it doesn't even seem like they've really been created and they're not testifying at the commission meetings. They've done this extraction vote and they're moving forward with these plans without even having input from the counties, the basic island units, on whether that extraction is right. You know, I know like your interest as Oahu residents, you're going to keep those votes here if you don't lose a seat to the Big Island. So like, you know, there's like a conflict of interest in that sense. But like I said, I would ask that you guys keep the integrity at top of mind, because if the numbers shake out, which it looks like it does, the Big Island would be entitled to a rep seat and Oahu would lose that. So, you know, please look at that carefully. I also am very concerned now about what seems to be the submergence in violation of Article 4, Section 6 of particular socioeconomic groups. The language in particular is where practicable, submergence of an area in a larger district wherein substantially different socioeconomic interests predominate shall be avoided. I think we've heard a lot from the Native Hawaiian community and other advocates that this is what's happened in the Waimanalo area. It really needs to be fixed. I don't like hearing that, well, the Senate district looks like this, so it must be okay. You know, maybe the Senate district needs to be fixed. And after everything that the Native Hawaiian community has been through, particularly in that area, I think that as a Oahu-based commissioners, you really need to take a close look at that, because we don't need to disenfranchise this group any further. I am also under the understanding that, is it Kamehameha Homes? There's a public housing complex, apparently, that's been divided into 3 different districts. That to me is also submergence of a particular socioeconomic class. And that's very concerning, you know, especially when you have access issues in terms of, you know, whether they can get on a Zoom, and maybe it's the sophistication of like testifying. So someone needs to stand up for those groups that are split among 3 House districts. And finally, I just wanted to, I'm a member of the Kaimuki Neighborhood Board. I'm just here in my own capacity. I'm not speaking for the board. I did mention at the last meeting, you know, that the maps look very strange for my area. Matt Prellberg, the chair of the, it was at Mo'ili'ili board, you know, he explained how sort of disjointed the new districts look like. And I have to agree, I used to live in Mo'ili'ili. I used to live near the Humane Society. And I'm pretty familiar with this area. I'm like, that's just bonkers. I'm sorry, like the way these district maps are dropped, they're not cohesive. And I have this map here that I sort of created. With this blue, green, and orange are the House districts that are proposed. And what I did here in yellow, is the Kaimuki Neighborhood Board under this plan would bring in 3 different rep districts. The Kaimuki Neighborhood Board district is a very clear neighborhood. I mean, it was very deliberately created to be Kaimuki, but now we have 3, under this plan, 3 reps for districts that are like twice the size and population, reporting to our small little neighborhood board. So that doesn't seem okay to me. And these shapes are really like, I don't understand why it's necessary to have shapes that look like this. And also I have here, sorry, I'm just having trouble with the orientation, but right here where I put an asterisk, that is where a sitting incumbent lives. And I recently learned about this term kidnapping, where lines would be drawn to kidnap an incumbent and bring it in to into a runoff with another. And I don't know, the shape of this like just disturbs me. I think we could probably do a lot better. And I think the Honolulu maps, you know, I've heard a lot of praise about them. I really like them. They're sort of keeping in spirit with the Ahupua'a type system. I think that would be a really nice historical nod and honoring of, you know, how we operate here in Hawaii. So I would encourage this council to advise the commission to maybe take some cues from the Honolulu County maps and, you know, see if they could adjust based on that. But first and foremost, everything stems from the extraction. And if there's been an unconstitutional extraction, then the whole tower comes crumbling down. And so you guys need to look at that, I think. And it's up to this council, because they need to consult with you. I'm asking for you to check in with them and let them know. Sorry, this is long. I'm here for questions.
Any questions?
No questions from me.
Sorry, I think I just muted Becky on accident. I actually have a question because this is coming up a lot. And Becky, you know that as a commissioner, I am working with Paycom, and Paycom is just as frustrated as the rest of us about how they're actually receiving information from some of the other resources. But at the end of the day, I don't know if David or Royce, if this is a question for you guys, if indeed we get different numbers from Indo-Paycom this round, you know, since March was a long time ago, if we get additional information, which we have been receiving, what is the process of that? I mean, does the commission, you know, we need to obviously take a look at it, but can you help me understand what would happen if those numbers are significantly, you know, 25 to 30% off? You know, what happens then?
Well, if we find that such a case exists, we would have to go back and do step one, which is reapportion all of the basic island units. And then we would have to do step two and redraw new lines. But we haven't seen anything yet except the first part of your data. We haven't seen the second part of your data that was coming. And so when we get new information, we're going to look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
If I may,
Sure.
so HRS section 25-3 on powers, the commission may require all such persons as it deems necessary to appear personally and testify before it and to produce it all books, records, files, maps, papers, maps, and documents as shall appear to be necessary for the purpose of formulating a reapportionment plan. So this to me is a tool, a hammer. I don't really know what is needed in terms of micro steps to invoke this, but I think that this is the exact kind of situation that this statute is designed to address. And, you know, whether or not there's like more data or substantiating data, I don't think that's needed. I think you can, on your own as a commission, issue these subpoenas under 25-3.
Well, who would we subpoena? Would we subpoena the Department of Defense? Because that's where we're getting our information from now. We started this process in December of 19 to make sure that the military gave us a count of folks who were active duty folks in Hawaii who paid taxes in another state. They gave us the data, I think about maybe May of 2020. We saw the numbers and we asked them again to confirm those numbers. And then we asked them again when Bart started bringing up his questions. We asked them again about their data. And they said, this is as good as we got. Now, is it? I don't know, but I don't know who we would subpoena.
Well, one sort of outstanding question for me is the data that you received, is that about non-permanent residents for which you have the census block data attached? Like,
No,
it
that's
includes
not.
everybody?
We take the total number of non-permanent residents. We extract them from the information that we've got in the census, right? So before we do anything, we get the extraction, we get the census numbers, we make the extraction, right? And then we apportion. Okay, then we go and we look through the data. I mean, because we know if you have a Big Island zip code, that you come off the Big Island. If you have an Oahu address, you come off of Oahu, right? And so we know all this and we make those extractions off the top. Now off the top, then you have data that you put in for redistricting. And that's what, that's the number we use. And then we have the non-resident students. The same thing, anybody who pays out-of-state tuition or has a legal address somewhere else is extracted the same way.
Okay, so I think I would feel better as a member of the public if those folks, DOD, whoever is producing this data, were to explain what they provided and could make themselves available for questions. That would help me feel more at comfort at this. And, not only DOD could be subpoenaed, but it's 25-6 cooperation. The commission can ask and receive assistance from every department, division, board, bureau, commission, or other agency of the state in cooperation and assistance in the performance of its duties. So, perhaps we could go to the social science arms of UH or DBED and help, explain to me, why this data is okay. Why, because there's a couple different numbers out there, and the spread is quite significant. And like I said, I'm just concerned.
Let's put it this way, the commission has only put out one set of numbers. And that's the numbers we got from the DOD and the universities. Now, other people are looking at data that they've created, right? Or they've asked DOD to give them, right? And even those numbers are relatively close. I wouldn't say spot on close, but they're close. And we are waiting to see if we get the dependent data, and then we're going to look at it. But we don't have the dependent data, so we just have one set, right? And there must have been 6 commission meetings in a row where we explained how we did the extraction, how we did step 1, how we did step 2, because we can read, and we could read Solomon Abercrombie as easy as anybody else. So we're not interested in starting these things all over again. That's why we started way before the census was even taken, to make sure that on April 1st, 2020, that the DOD cut us database, right, of folks who active duty here, pay taxes in another state, and the addresses for here, so we could put them in the census blocks.
Hey, Robin, this is Alan. Sorry to interject, Becky. Very good questions. I appreciate that. I'm learning a lot just by having this conversation. I'm not sure if I'm the only Oahu Advisory Committee member on the call. I saw Jen.
She had to go. Yeah, she had to leave at 1.
Okay, so just so we manage this meeting, I appreciate you, Robin, for reaching out to all of us to bring the committee members together. Unfortunately, all of our schedules don't match, I guess. But I just wanted to interject because I was feeling kind of like alone here as a committee member on Oahu. But how do we proceed on this without having any of the committee members on board, or at this meeting, I should say? Maybe it's a staff question.
Definitely a staff question, because as you can testify, Becky, I promise, I've reached out every week, trying to, and I didn't even ever hear back from a couple of, like Jen and Lynn. Today's the first time I saw Jen. So I don't know. Yeah, that's a good question. I guess that's a Lori question or a Kimberly question. Like, what happens if we never get this committee with quorum?
Well, for today's meeting, because there's no quorum, you can continue taking public testimony. There just can't be any decision making. So that's why the election of the chair could not proceed.
That's okay.
For another meeting, yes.
So I just want to make one comment because Becky and David, what I have found in this process, and of course you guys know I'm the new kid on the block, is that when I speak to the Indo-PACOM people that I work with, you know, all of the numbers that have been pulled, that David pulled from this other guy, you know, how we request the numbers and how they give it to us, David has to trust that process. But at the end of the day, you're always going to find people that are willing to take an extra step. And it looks to me like the people that I've talked to after, you know, I presented it as, you know, the military is getting a bad rap. We had to, like Solomon, I mean, it was clear that people had to go to the Supreme Court to get the right numbers from you guys. You don't want that PR mess right now, you know, with this commission. I'm like, you guys need to get the right numbers. So you see, I mean, the people that I'm dealing with are, already saying, awaiting a rerun from DMDC. I don't know what that acronym stands for, of a report to get numbers of dependents as of March 31st, 2020 of AD sponsors with duty in Hawaii with mailing address zip +4, because we're trying to get that detailed. So they're even seeing that the numbers that come in that they're receiving from DEERS, like DEERS doesn't do the dependents, right? So the dependent, I mean, are we the only state that does this whole military thing? Because it's very confusing. But they're going back and forth with this DMDC to clarify the request, et cetera. So at the end of the day, how we request the information and we received it, I believe that David and the team have done exactly as they believe, was legally their responsibility. But what happens if you drill it down a little more, and Bart and Becky, you guys have been very adamant that those numbers didn't make sense. And you have the luxury of time to be able to insinuate that or, pay attention to it. So we are, I promise you, doing the best we can to get additional numbers. And if they are significant in any way, I believe that David and the team will do our best, because obviously this is public knowledge. I mean, you guys can, we can't hide this from you, right? If the numbers come in and there's a significant, skew, we're going to have to do what we're legally responsible to do. But just know that we are doing the best, David and myself and Royce and whomever, to drag these numbers from the military. And they're not trying to hide it. There's just a lot of obvious acronym offices in their department. So we are still working on it, and we will do everything we need to do legally to make sure that is addressed.
I appreciate, that's the part that's important to me is the diligence and the process. And I think that, however it shakes out is how it shakes out, that you did the process that's outlined, like followed the instructions. So I guess because of the nature of this, it's so funny and like, I don't know, garbage in, garbage out. And it's like the requests can be misinterpreted. Maybe like because I'm seeing the same things happen, right? Like from the last time, if you could take like your lessons from this process and then in your report say, okay, dear legislature, can you fix this? Because this is not working. It like slowed things down. It's confusing. Maybe we do want to include the military, maybe not. I don't know, but if there's some things that we could codify that will avoid this play and this confusion in the future, then we'll have better integrity and reapportionments to come. Because if things get funny now, then that's the building blocks for the next reapportionment. And, we see what's happening at the ground level. We see some of this submergence, and I don't want that kind of thing to be enabled by sort of a loosey-goosey extraction process.
Okay.
Well, loosey-goosey, we were not. Now, you might say we were wrong, but we weren't playing around with anything. Straight numbers, we showed it to the commission, the number of DOD, right, that they gave us, the students that they gave us. We showed the population of Hawaii. We showed the numbers being taken off, and we showed which islands those numbers came out of. So it wasn't loosey-goosey.
I apologize. I didn't mean for that to be a reflection on the very diligent work you're doing.
Royce and I have been doing this for a while. And, Royce and I did not make the decision in 2011 for the base that they used. We offered them 3 opportunities in the barracks, military in the barracks and close to it, and then a number that's amazingly close to the number that we have now, which was called Extraction C. But that commission chose Extraction A. Not Royce and I, we just give information. We don't determine the information. And our job is to be as straight up and right on as we can. We were the ones that are still there who got sued last time.
What is wrong with you two? No, I'm just kidding.
People don't believe
punishment.
People don't believe us.
Yeah.
So, to be respectful of everyone's time, and I respect the public process, I think I heard that we were entertaining new testimony or new public comment. Are we done with that section? Because I think it's an hour and a half that we've been on this call. I just want to make sure that we're productive and using everyone's time properly.
Yeah, I don't see any additional. Kimberly, do we have any additional testimony?
Not that I can see.
Is there anybody here live that had testimony they wanted to share that did not have the opportunity to turn it in prior to the meeting? Okay. So any other questions or concerns? Oh, Sandy Ma. Hi, Sandy.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late. I was wondering if the public hearing dates have been finalized. I understand that one date is still in question, the day before Thanksgiving.
No, that's been removed. I just saw proposed dates today and it was taken out. Oh, these are proposed, yeah? Can you see that?
Yeah, Sandy, this is the slide I shared earlier. Again, they're pending confirmation, but they did hear the feedback at the earlier commission meeting last week and have been working to get these dates. These are the current ones, still pending confirmation.
So another, thank you for that, Royce. So another full reapportionment commission meeting has to be held to adopt these public hearing dates. And then 20 days later, and then 20 days later. Okay. Got it. Thank you so much.
Great. And Bart, did you have something?
Yeah, I'll just be real quick. I think the due diligence of the commission was not done around the extraction. I appreciate the staff. I also am firmly of the belief that in the 10 years ago, both Royce and David did push for the extraction B or C, and it was the runaway commission was the members rather than the staff. But when these numbers, the proposed extraction numbers were introduced this time, they were produced late in the meeting. Those of us in the public who were watching had our mics shut off and we could not comment on them for a couple weeks later. And I saw when they proposed the extraction, these numbers were historically aberrant. If I presented a chart and not one commissioner except perhaps you responded to that chart that showed that in the past, the commission's extractions have been 90% or so of the military population as estimated by DBED, and for that matter, the DMDC. And suddenly it was dropping down to 64%. And that was aberrant, and not one commissioner has tried to address that question, except perhaps Commissioner Chun, who thinks that the difference is explained because not everybody who's military is a non-resident, and which is actually about 1.5%. So it doesn't explain the data. So if the commission had been willing to discuss these things rather than say, Bart, your 3 minutes are up, your mic is cut, and then not respond, then we could have dealt with this a month ago or 6 weeks ago, at least had a full honest discussion. But I don't think it was honest because they refused to deal with the historical anomaly of the low extraction. So David will say that, okay, it's about 70-something thousand, just like extraction C last time. But the military population is different in the different years. And it's very clear that if he wants to be transparent, show us the numbers. If we have these new numbers from PACOM and you want the complete ones, but just that portion of it that has to do with active duty members. In my mind, I think that they were extracting 29,000 members, and this one says 41 or 42,000 should be extracted. So anyways, I'm a little annoyed because, and I know David's annoyed and we don't want to be accusing anything. I actually have great respect for David and for Royce and their patience, including with me, although it gets stretched. I appreciate that patience. I just think that there has not been adequate transparency. And it's just like around the Makapu wraparound, they haven't, not those two staff, but the commissioners have not justified and offered any explanation for that wraparound other than it's been done in the past. So they can do it if they want to. And I think that's an abuse of discretion. And I think the Sunshine Law requires they make the decisions and have their deliberations and discussions in open. They cannot hide behind lawyers. They have to explain their reasoning so those of us who are observing know why they're making the decisions that they're making and can provide testimony that is responsive to those concerns. I'm Paul. Enough. I'm off my soapbox.
So is Lori still here or Kimberly? I have a question about that. So when is there ever open discussion from the technical committee to these, to the public? I mean, where is it that they, you know, are they ever, where would they answer to that? You know, I mean, why they did what they did?
Well, one, I think addressing the sunshine issue, sunshine law permits a permitted interaction group to have discussions which are not made public. So that's been a decision by the commission to form that PIG, for, you know, that unfortunate acronym. And they are then having discussions about that. As for whether or not they've explained it, I do believe that in several reapportionment meetings, including the one that they presented it, I believe all the members of the technical group did explain their rationale and their consideration. I don't remember the specific points that they raised, but I do believe that they did address that when they presented it to the full commission.
Okay. I'm not sure that I received that information during any of those meetings, but that's okay. I mean, I guess the commissioner, so if I'm on the rules committee, I then in a commission meeting have the ability to ask what the thought process was behind some of those changes, like District 51, obviously, and the, you know, maps that Bill Hicks has redrawn. So I didn't feel like there was any communication, you know, back and forth, which again, I'm not sure where or when that is appropriate. But I think having a good understanding of why they did those things would help people, you know, move forward in one direction or another. They can still disagree. But you're saying basically in those, the entire commission meetings is where we can ask those questions and have them respond.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and I'm going to encourage all of you that are left. I love that people bring testimony. I mean, at the last commission meeting, we had 170 people send in written testimony, and, you know, several were able to speak. But honestly, I really believe that if you see how much attention the Bill Hicks maps that he's redrawn and he's looking at Mililani, I mean, that's going to be the best opportunity for change, because if you expect 4 commissioners, right, David and Royce, to take on hundreds of people's testimony, and, you know, they're all, a lot of people say the same thing, you know, we want to keep Manoa together, we want to keep Kailua together, which totally makes sense. But I feel like without helping the commission draw some lines, draw some specs out to show the thoughts, I mean, I really feel like that is going to be a huge indication of how the commission takes a look at those things. We need solutions, right? Because they've given you their solution. People aren't happy with it. So what are the additional solutions which Bill's provided? So I'm just encouraging any of you that have, you know, passion for this to please, I love Becky's colorful map, and I think they showed that at Civil Beat, but do you see how that gets all the attention? So we really need people to jump into that technology and help take a look at it and do your best if you can to create some additional solutions that the commission can actually, you know, take a look at. I mean, I don't know what else to say because I'm not in those meetings, so I don't know how they actually decide. But I know they're all open to anything that all of you are saying. They're just doing the best they can, right? So I guess that without any further testimony, I believe we should more than likely call this meeting to a close. Kimberly, is there anything else, or Lori, that we need to do?
No.
So we'll try to schedule another meeting for Oahu, but we're moving into the bigger meetings, right? So, but we'll try to schedule another and see if we can't get the Republicans to show up. And thanks to all of you that have come. And I'm always available for any questions. Bart knows full well that I'm available anytime. Diane, do you have anything that you want to share before we shut down?
No, I really don't. I just came to listen in and observe, you know, the meeting. I hope that you can get a quorum. I'm not clear what happened. Does anyone know? I
No,
mean, that-
we've reached out once a week. I've been trying to schedule this meeting and I finally just asked Carolyn. Jennifer she was the only one that responded. I knew Alan would come to the dates that we provided. So I just said, schedule it because they're not responding. So we did. And here we are.
Someone should try to find out if they really want to do it, because then it's not effective if you have no official meeting to report on, you know?
I agree. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, so maybe you can follow up on that.
Oh, I've left messages. You know, Mike Rumpel is one of our people and he sent an email with some of his suggestions, but they were all about, you know, projected growth in areas. So he didn't really understand the process. So I had sent emails sharing exactly what they were supposed to do. But like Alan, right, you were not aware of what your responsibilities are. So I don't know. I have reached out to all four and
well, I'm thinking that you might need to reach out to the people who appointed these people respectively to let them know, because if there isn't interest, I don't know if it's too late to make a change or, you know, because otherwise this council, which is handling a very important island where most of our state's population is, you know, doesn't have an official record.
yeah, Lori, is it possible to like fire people and reappoint new ones? I mean, that's a horrible way to put it, but like, is there a way to change people out?
I haven't looked into that, so I don't have an answer for you right now.
Okay. Okay, well, I will certainly, I reached out prior to this meeting in hopes that they would reach out to their people and make sure they were all here today. So disappointing that they're not, but I will reach out again to the people that appointed them and ask them to come in. So we need to schedule another meeting, I guess, and hope that they come.
Aloha. Aloha, Robin. This is Donnie Guy Coro Sanchez. I spoke briefly in support of Bart and Bill Hicks and other people who would like to see a different map proposed. And I wonder if it might be possible to call these people out publicly in the press as a member of the public and just say, hey, you guys, why aren't you coming to these meetings and making it happen? You've been appointed to do it. Why aren't you doing it? I mean, would that be effective? Could I do something like that without being, I don't know, is that an idea? If you do something like that, who could, I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think you guys are welcome to do whatever you see fit, for sure.
Does that, I mean, would that help? I don't know. I'll have a discussion offline with Bart about it and see what we can come up with, because I agree that, you know, due diligence includes coming to meetings and presenting a quorum and having progress. And if that's not happening, then yeah, the commission is not fulfilling its responsibilities. So yeah, okay, I'll proceed. Thanks so much for this meeting. It's been super informative, and I watched you in the very initial meeting when the appointment of Mark Muguishu was rammed through, and wanted to say thank you for your objection to that, because that was instructive as well of how things have kind of been done. And it's just very frustrating to see as a member of the public how it just doesn't. Anyway, I'll get offline because I know time is of the essence. So thanks, everybody. I'll take it to the press. Aloha.
Oh, thanks, Guy. Okay, you guys, thank you so much. I guess meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Thanks, Alan, for showing up.